Okay, thank you, and welcome to this video on a few principles, four main principles for page layout design. I've been using these kind of principles for a good flow and design of a page layout for years, and I'd like to share them with you. I have a very simple object. This is actually an object that we're working on here, and the design of this object and the point of this is really just to capture essentially a status, a few notes, and a date field. And so we will see a lot of different records kind of pinged back and forth in here, but the intent is really it's a quick and dirty kind of capturing of some date information, some status information around that date, and connecting that with an account and contact. So the object isn't a lot of information, but we're going to be seeing a lot of them. So it's really important for users to be able to quickly work in that space. So if we come over here to our page layout on our object and edit this, you'll see that the default stuff sort of just stacks together. And so our first principle is going to be move the main information around. Of course, you get your two column page layout first. And so I'm going to move this information around here accordingly. And so I'm going to group everything together. So for example, I might want to put the date and the status together, and I'll put our two lookup fields together so these can be executed on rather quickly. I like the two stack method here for most fields. And then the second principle here is to take this information and kind of stack things together. So for most fields, I like our two column layout, but for our large text area fields or just text area fields in general, and for most of the time in this instance, it's a large notes field. So I'm going to add in a section for our notes field, and I'm going to make that a one column section. That allows the notes section to stretch out quite a bit across the entire page and gives the users quite a bit more space in order to operate in. So sticking it in its own section is quite a bit better. Then what I'd like to do is actually this is a really design principle around your actual object. But in our instance, the account field is currently the only field required because we've set that up as a master detail relationship. However, that master detail relationship derives exclusively off of the date and the status field. So if we want to have that roll-up information be accurate, we really should require the date and the status in this piece. But design requirements sometimes don't necessitate that the field itself be required at the field level, but we want to make sure that information is captured. So if we want to allow our admins or a push of information, like an import, for example, to have imperfect data in it, all of that required based on your design, then you would want to make these fields required at the page layout level. And so we'll do that here, and I'll make that required. So this pushes excellent data when it's being edited or when it's being created within Salesforce, but allows us some flexibility to perhaps import imperfect data or from an admin level to bypass this kind of requirement. So we're going to go ahead and make those pieces required there, and that we would only do that for the fields that are indeed actually required based on our requirements. And then fourth and foremost, I like to make sure to hide or at the very least push to the bottom all of the information that really is not needed for quick interaction for the customer. In this instance, our audit number, so our auto number for our object, is really just not necessary for consistent information around the customer, right? So they're not going to be referencing it very often. It's not information that's there. I do want them to be able to see it, so I'm not going to hide it completely, but I'm going to stick it down at the bottom in the system information section. And then I'm going to train the customer to be able to collapse this section which is, of course, is a sticky collapse, which means that once you collapse it, it will stay collapsed until you uncollapse it again. That's an individual user's requirement, or an individual user setting, rather. But I like to hide it either way, just kind of stick it towards the bottom, or just remove it altogether if you can. You know, quick, easy flow of of our object is critical to adoption and making it easy for the customer to use. So in summary, we've done four different design principles for your page layouts. The first and foremost would be to move your main fields and group those together, and make them easy to be accessible in those little groups. The second would be to require certain fields at the page layout level based on your design principles. Our third is going to be you move your large text areas into their own sections to allow for extended use and pass-through for your customers. And then hide those system fields and any other fields that are on the page layout but not necessarily need to be referenced on a quick and dirty go. Thanks again, and have a great day.